Good evening, Keziah Sullivan. I'm Director of Operations, City of Auburn Ambulance Department. We started operating in November of 2021, so this is sort of a general operational update since that time. This is a breakdown of our current staffing, numbers of staff and their current certification levels. In addition to our EMS responders, we have an administrative assistant, as well as a physician medical director. Our general ambulance staffing model is one paramedic and one EMT or advanced EMT on each vehicle. And we have a base of 3 vehicles in service at a time on our standard schedule. Our employees work either front half or back half of the week, and they work either day shifts or night shifts. They're 12-hour shifts. And they have staggered start and end times. So they work from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Since the summer, we've started transitioning to adding a 4th shift. We don't have that every day yet, but it has helped a lot with reducing need for any outside mutual aid coming into the city. When we are running that shift, it's from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. And we found that's been very helpful. We have 5 ambulance vehicles named A12345. A stands for ambulance. We operate out of the 23 Market Street station. 3 of the ambulances exit onto Market Street and 2 exit onto the arterial. A5 was the used vehicle, so that is significantly older than the other 4. And overall, we've traveled combined about 150,000 miles since starting operations. This is a breakdown of the types of calls that we've done, general categories of calls that we've done for calendar year 2022. The pink lines are transports of patients. So the majority are 911 transports to the hospital, but we also do a significant number of interfacility transports. The green lines are responses that don't involve transporting a patient from the scene. The first one, patient refusals, is when we have patients that we offer transport, but they decline, which most people have a right to do. We have call cancellations for a variety of reasons, deaths at scene where no transport is required, standbys for police or fire or other emergency situations. For a total of 7,076 responses in calendar year 2022. This further breaks down the types of calls that we respond to, again for calendar year 2022, by category of medical problem. The leading is sick person, which is sort of a general category that can include a lot of different things, followed by respiratory problems, injuries from falls, chest pain, unconsciousness, and fainting. This is some data for a 4-month period. To get this as accurate as possible, I had to manually look through all the calls. So that's why it's a 4-month segment and not an entire year. But it shows that 97.6% of our responses were within the city of Auburn, and 2.4% in that 4-month period were to towns or villages outside the city.
Do you have an inverse of that as to what mutual aid was sent to the city of Auburn? Do you have that available or no?
It's a little harder to determine, but based on the information that I have, it's pretty equal. So it looks like during that period of time, it was probably about 2 to 3% as well.
Thank you.
These are the destinations that we transported to in 2022. So not unexpectedly, Auburn Community Hospital is the majority of our transports, but we also go to the Syracuse hospitals fairly frequently, and you can see that there's some more distant facilities there as well. About 11% of our total calls are interfacility transports. These are transports of patients primarily from a hospital to another hospital, but also sometimes from a hospital to a nursing home or from a hospital back to a private residence, for example, if someone needs hospice care at home. We receive transfer calls directly, and we dispatch our own crews. So these do not go through the 911 center. We handle them ourselves. but we do notify the 911 center when we have a vehicle assigned to an interfacility transport. This further breaks down the type of interfacility transports that we did. So the blue section there is 67%. Those are our standard hospital-to-hospital transports. So those are mostly from Auburn to Syracuse or Auburn to Rochester. The brown section is the additional long-distance hospital-to-hospital transfers that we do. And those we define as any transport time of 70 miles or greater from the starting facility to the receiving facility. And overall, those make up about 11% of our calls. That's important to know because they take a significant amount of time. These are the average times required for long-distance transfers at some of the primary places that we take these patients to. So you can see for Albany, the average time required is 6.8 hours from the start of the trip to the ambulance coming back into service.
In regards to these long-distance transfers and the locations that you're going to, Albany, Westchester, Saratoga, is that a common long-term thing, or is this made worse because of COVID and issues that medical centers are continuing to experience? Is this something that we can expect into the future?
This was not as prevalent prior to COVID. I think the reasons for it are multifactorial. I don't think there's as many COVID patients. I don't think the hospitals are overwhelmed by COVID patients, but that's certainly still part of the strain. There's just generalized staffing issues in hospitals and also lack of availability of specialty services. So when patients are going from here to a more distant facility, it's generally because they need services that aren't available.
Thank you.
This further breaks down the average times required for each phase of a emergency or interfacility transport. So the top bar is your hospital to hospital or other interfacility transports. Because the long distance transports are included in those numbers, it makes it for a total, average time of 164 minutes. And then our 911 responses, the total time for a call is 83.2 minutes for 2022. One thing that some people don't realize is that a big portion of our calls is after we arrive at the hospital. There is often a wait for the patient to get into a room, so our crews will stay with them. So the light blue section shows the average time that ambulance crews are waiting at the hospital for a room assignment. This graph shows a breakdown of the types of insurance that the patients we transport carry. And this graph shows an average reimbursement based on the type of insurance that the patient we are transporting has. We are continuously working to make sure that we are improving every day. We're very aggressive about our quality assurance. We do 100% call review, and we're always working to get better. We recently received state and regional approval for an advanced airway technique called rapid sequence intubation, and we are carrying all mandatory and optional pain management options on our vehicles. We also recently started stocking a newly approved regional medication called tranexamic acid, which is used for internal bleeding from trauma. And we participate in the cardiac arrest registry to enhance survival, which helps with tracking and improving the way that we take care of cardiac arrest patients. One thing that's kind of neat that we started actually just this month, we got approval to participate in a study for iGels, which is an airway management device that EMTs are now going to be able to start using. But it's still in the research phase, but our EMTs are able to participate in that. We're also a training site for EMT and paramedic students, and we are encouraging our employees to advance their educations as well. So I'm sure we're going to get into more financial details with the budget presentations, but this is a summary of where we're at. We've been operating for 2 partial fiscal years, so that's why it's broken down this way. These figures are provided by Rachel Jacobs, the city comptroller. So you can see the categories of payments received, expenses, and outstanding receivables refers to billed amounts that we have not been reimbursed for yet. We don't expect to recoup all of those funds, but the expectation is that we would get about 60 to 70% of those amounts back.
Is that an industry standard, or is it just Auburn, or?
It's based on past performance for the city.
On this topic, and I don't, Ms. Sullivan, I don't know if it's a question for you or Ms. Jacobs, or in terms of collections, are there any challenges that we're experiencing? And if there are, what are we doing to address those?
So the city does not currently have a contract with a collections company. I believe that we are planning to put out an RFP to choose one.
Do we have a time frame for the RFP?
Hopefully by the end of March, we have that out. So maybe we can award something by the end of April.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just a comment, I guess, if you want to go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that was my concern, was like, how are we going to recoup that money? And if we're already going to do an RFP, that's good to hear.
Yeah, and that amount is not all money that would require a collections agency. Some of it's just in the process of insurance reimbursement. Yeah.
Right. And the turnaround time for insurance reimbursements isn't always fast.
No, it's not.
And I know in discussions with city manager and staff, also experienced at NICOM a couple weeks ago, there are, I guess, industry issues in collections that we really, I think have dedicated ourselves to educate our state representatives on, and hopefully, further that agenda and get some assistance from them. Mm-hmm. Speaking of NICOM, we were there, as I reported last week. The city manager gave a presentation on this very topic and trends throughout the state, throughout the country. He's done a great job of communicating with us throughout this entire process and giving us examples, it seems almost weekly, of other municipalities, other counties that are experiencing the same issues we were experiencing 18 months ago. It became very evident after his presentation, the questions were asked, and the discussion that occurred amongst our statewide colleagues, that this is a problem that's not going away, that every municipality is going to have to address this in some way or another. And based on our experience over the last 18 months, I feel like we've kind of set the example as a city on how this can be done. It was a tall task to pull off, and I just want to say I'm proud of the work that all of you have done collectively to accomplish this. I don't think it's an over-exaggeration to say that most municipalities would struggle doing this, and I think that there's been challenges, but I think we're dealing with those challenges as they arise. And for me, it was a question of public safety. I feel that that's a role and duty and a responsibility of government to provide public safety. We do it for police and fire. We know that the level that we expect and that we see from police and fire wasn't there previously with the ambulance service. And I heard that. I think we all heard that from constituents, and I've heard the exact opposite recently. So I just want to acknowledge everybody that's involved, your entire staff, and everybody within the organization that's collectively worked to get us to where we are. I think that needs to be said.
Thank you. Yes, we have an incredibly dedicated team. I'm very proud of them.
All set.
Thank you.
All set. Thank you.
Thank you.